Hi everyone, it's Melissa Phillips, and today I thought I would show you how I go about embossing on vellum. Heat embossing. I've received a few requests, and so I thought this would be a good way to explain my process. And this is the card that we will be working on today. I just began with Sweet Blush cardstock, and then vellum that was cut slightly smaller than my card front. And then, because I want the images to pop off of the background of the card, I chose a really faint pattern, a light pattern paper to place behind it so that those images will really jump off. And it is cut the very same size. An image that has mainly a white background with just a tiny little pattern on it will work perfectly. Okay, forgive me, a lot of this is going to be hard for you to see because we're using watermark ink. But I'll just go ahead and start explaining the process. I started right here with this big thick building, and then I'm going to work from side to side so that I can alternate my patterns and my colors a little bit. So for now, set your card base and your pattern paper to the side. I am going to stamp that building almost all the way to the right using my watermark ink. There's nothing for you to see, unfortunately, but I'll get my embossing powder and walk you through the process. Okay, I chose three main colors, and that might be a good idea for you as well. That way you can offset your little city and get a lot of fun variation in colors without it being too crazy. Okay, so I've just used Rouge Zing embossing powder, and I've covered that ink, that watermark ink, and now I've got to heat set it so that that will remain in place. And that brightens the colors and solidifies it for you. Okay, now that rouge is heat set, and we can build from there. And when I said three colors, I meant four. I'm sure that I'm pretty good at confusing you, but white I throw in there just to add in a little bit of Christmas flair. It kind of looks like snow-covered rooftops and things like that. But white, and then I used blush and leaf, and I think it creates a fun little Christmas scene. So now we're going to add the roof and window outlines to our building here. And once again, I'm using watermark ink. Before I emboss that rooftop, I'm going to add the building to the side, and this is where you can kind of start heat embossing more than one image at a time. That can be a little bit tedious, but okay, I'm going to add a taller building right here to the left. Grab my little tray and my white embossing powder. Shake that on. Just tap off the excess. And now I'm ready to go and heat emboss those images. So you can see that this really starts coming together quickly as you build your city. Okay, so now the white's heat embossed, and we're going to move on. And before I do my pink roof and window outlines, I'm going to add a pink solid building right there next door. And that way I can heat emboss two images at the same time, which is my whole point. Okay, there is the main part of the building. And here we'll do the roof and the window outlines for that first building. And I'm using blush. This is one of my favorite color combinations for Christmas, and now that just needs to be heat set as well. Next up will be green. We'll be using the leaf, and I will work on the rooftop and the window outlines. this little building, and then we're going to do this tall, skinny building. Alright, coat those watermarked images with my leaf. You'll notice that the embossing powder doesn't stick to any images that have been heat embossed, just those that are still wet, so works out perfectly. I'll just heat set that. Okay, I went ahead and finished our little city scene down here. Now what I'm going to do is stamp Santa and his reindeer flying across the sky. And I wanted it to arch slightly, so what I've done is just bent my stamp before placing it on my acrylic block so that it gets a nice arch to it. I'm going to stamp that using watermark ink. And then my trees that I'm going to place across the bottom, I'm just using 2 of them, but this is from the City Scene Die collection. I've stamped the large and the small tree using watermark ink, and I'm going to coat everything with gold embossing powder. Then we can heat set all of that all at the same time. My trees. That'll give us some nice holiday shimmer. Okay, now that that's heat embossed, I'm just going to trim these trees from the rest of the die, and I'm going to attach them using dimensional adhesive right here at the bottom of our little city scene so that they pop out just a little bit right there in front of those buildings. Okay, and then we can attach all of this to our card base. Okay, I've got my pattern paper down, and then comes the vellum. And my secret for adhering vellum to the background is to apply your glue behind your images. So this is just how I do it. I cheat a little bit. I'm going to put something across the top of my card so I can put my adhesive there, and then just wherever there's an image so that you don't see the glue. And then it's just going to go right over the top of our patterned paper. It works just perfectly. Okay, next I cut using white cardstock and my loop-de-loop tube border, just a strip that I'm going to cut the right size and adhere across the top. Okay, and now comes the ribbon. I just used Sweet Blush Grosgrain, tied a strip of it across the top, and I'm just going to put it right below the loop-de-loop tube border. And we'll finish off with our snowflakes and a sentiment. Okay, so I used the Fancy Flake die, just the small one, white cardstock and vellum, and then this vellum snowflake's been coated with some glitter so that it sparkles a little bit. I also used my double-ended banners die and a small sentiment from Merry Little Christmas stamp set. I loved the font. It was kind of fun and playful. And I'm just trimming that to be the right size, and going to layer my snowflakes. Kind of offset them a little bit. And then tie a white button with red thread. And that finishes off our card. I hope you'll give it a try. Can't wait to see what you do as you heat emboss your vellum. We'll see you soon.